Hello, I'm Chef Babs, and I'm here with you today to teach you how to make Birthright soup. If you'll take a look, we've got the ingredients laid out on the table, and we have the recipe for you today. For those of you who aren't familiar with Birthright soup, perhaps you're familiar with red lentil soup. It's one of my favorite soups, especially as the months start to get chilly. And it's my favorite because not only is it delicious, but it's so simple and easy to make, as you're going to learn today. There are two different ways you can make the recipe. You can make it in a crock pot. If you don't have a crock pot, I thoroughly encourage you to get one. It really simplifies life. And the other way that you can make it is on the stove top. So if you'll take a look at your ingredients, get your ingredients together, and we're just going to get started today. So the first thing that you're going to need is your olive oil. If you're making this on the stove top, you're going to start with your olive oil. If you're making this in the crock pot, you can put all of your ingredients in the crock pot and not have to worry about it. I know, it's wonderful. You can make it the night before if you have company. You might have to add a little bit of water to it the next day to thin it out if you want, or you can make it on the crock pot and have it ready in about 2.5 hours. So we're going to start with our olive oil. The reason that you start with your olive oil is you want it to take on any of the flavors that you're cooking with. And we're cooking with a lot of different herbs and spices today. But first, we're going to start with some of our veggies. Now, one thing that I really like to do when I'm cooking is get all of my vegetables ready so that I just can go boom, 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 and it just simplifies things. You just go down the line. Now, if you like a thick, chunky onion, cut your onions thick and chunky. If you want an onion that's small, go ahead and make your onion small. Now you can see I have quite the Mama Jamma onion that I'm using today. But I'm going to use all of it because I love onions in everything. As my husband, who's our cinematographer here today, can testify, that just about everything that I cook has onions and garlic in it. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to throw the onions in here. We've got our pot cooking on medium heat. And we're going to grab a couple garlic. Now, I've recommended 2 cloves of garlic, but if you want to make it even garlicier, go ahead and throw more of them in there. If you like your garlic really thick and chunky, keep it thick and chunky. But we're going to go ahead, I like my garlic pretty thick and chunky. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to smash it, we're going to mince it up a little bit, and then we're just going to add that to the pot. Now we're going to go on down the line. We've got our garlic through. We've got a variety of different herbs and spices that we're going to add to things. Some of these herbs and spices you may be more familiar with than others. We have sumac that we're going to garnish with a little bit. That's an ancient biblical spice that is also one of my favorites. We have coriander, cumin, turmeric, which is a little non-traditional, but that's how I like to kick it. And then we have bay leaves, which are a very, very biblical spice and herb. And I put bay leaves in just about all of my soups. It helps give them a little bit of extra flavor. And oddly enough, it also helps with the texture. Now, I take the bay leaves out before serving, or sometimes I'll garnish with the bay leaf. It's up to you. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to throw all of our herbs and spices on in here, so that the onions are really taking on that flavor. We're going to throw these guys on in here. That was a little bit of, well, just about everything. We're going to throw the rest of our onions in here, and we're going to keep cooking this until the onions are a little bit translucent. By translucent, I mean they're going to take on almost a caramely color. We're going to then, after they have taken on a caramely color, we're going to add our carrots and our celery. Again, keep this in whatever texture that you would like, whatever is comfortable for you. Just make sure you've scrubbed your carrot before you add it to your pot. Now, one thing that's not necessary, but I love it in lentil soup, are sweet potatoes. These are locally grown sweet potatoes. They're a little bit smaller than your average sweet potatoes. Some folks leave the sweet potato peel on. Some of them take it off. I like to leave it on. Then, oh, you can hear it sizzling as we speak. Then over here, you can see where I have my lentils, and I have them soaking in the water. So I've taken the lentils, the amount of lentil that I'm supposed to have. This is a portion for 4 servings, and I have them soaking in water. Now, you can leave this soaking in the water for about an hour if you want, or 2 hours. The nice thing about when you're making this in the crock pot, again, is you don't have to worry about any of this. You don't have to worry about how long. It's going to slow cook everything so beautifully that you won't have to worry about any of it. Now, I'm not going to add this to this just yet for TV purposes because it's still sizzling over there. But we've just about already gone through everything. After we've added all of our veggies in here and they've simmered down just a little bit, we're going to add our chicken broth. I've got my chicken broth ready to go in here. I like to use a low sodium chicken broth so that things aren't too salty. If I want more salt in something, I can just add salt to it a little bit later. And we're just going to let this slow cook after we've added our chicken broth, after we've added our lentils. Again, if you put it all in here, if you use your crock pot, you don't even have to worry about what order. Another little side note, sometimes the next day, if it's gotten a little bit thicker, or even 2 or 3 days later, if I want to make it even thinner, I'll add a little bit of coconut to it, a little coconut milk. It doesn't matter what kind of coconut milk, it's your preference. Some are sweeter and thicker than others. And then after it's cooked down, the next day, or 2.5 hours later, by the miracle of television, you will have Birthright soup. And you can see where I have garnished it with a little bit of parsley, and then I have my sumac on there. If you're not familiar with sumac, I highly, highly recommend it. It is a wonderful flavor. In fact, if you make a za'atar at home, this is my homemade za'atar. It's got a little bit of sumac, oregano, and sesame seeds, but I wanted to keep it strictly sumac today. But this is one of my favorite soups. If you haven't taken the time to try Birthright soup, I highly recommend it. It's so good. And it really hits the spot during this cold winter and cold fall months. Thanks for tuning in today. It's been great getting to cook with you. Enjoy.